What is up, everybody? It's Waiko, and today I have a new bass house idea to show you guys. But this idea is pretty different. I use vocal chops as leads, and I'm going to show you how I made them. But first, let's listen to the song really quick. This project is going to be available on my Patreon. Don't you guys forget. Alright, so jumping straight into the project, I'm going to show you how I made the vocal chops first. Basically, I chopped up a vocal. I used auto-tune. Then I used a little bit of compression, RVox, Soothe, Fresh Air, and Decapitator. And then these two plugins to make it stereo. Then the equalizer, and then the distortion. Sound Godizer in this case, and OTT. Alright, so now we have this. A strong vocal. But now I use this plugin manipulator that I use very often for vocal chops, and I did this. So now we're getting a weird vocal chop. That's what we need. So next, I used manipulator as a vocoder. How do we do that? We go to the back end here and we set an input port. Then afterwards, we load a MIDI out, and then we set the same port as the input port here on manipulator. So in this case, it's 12. We load up the MIDI. So now basically I have the vocal chops, but I'm making them play the MIDI that I want them to play. To me, these are two very important things to make vocal chop drops: the morphing and then vocoding, setting the vocal chop to the MIDI that you want. So yeah, this is how you get those really big and interesting vocal chops. On to the next sound, drum leads. Basically, I load up drum loops on SliceX. So SliceX separates all of the drums in different markers. This is really interesting. Now you can play around, and you have some cool drum loops that you can make. To make it sound big, I just heavily processed it. Blood Overdrive, Camel Crusher, Equalizer, and Imager to make it wider. But you need to pick the sounds right. So for drums, the drums should have to sound good already without processing, and then you heavily process it to make it stand out. So that's my strategy to make those big drum leads. So next up is the sub. Your basses have to have a big attack, or in my situation, I just used an 808. Those basses normally have big attacks by themselves. I use this 808 from Nexus, but you can use any 808. Processing is Camel Crusher, Equalizer, Kickstart, and Imager to make it mono. What's left is the kick, toms, top loops, stabs. And that's it. Keep it simple and groovy, use weird sounds, and you get a cool drop. Again, if you want to learn from this project, it's going to be available on my Patreon. Thank you for supporting me. As always, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you guys learned. Wag on, wag off.